We're a long, long way away from 2019, but already we've got pundits talking about coalition governments after 2019. Is it too early to call? Judging by the recent May Day boos that happened in Bloemfontein and other centres, the two senior ANC leaders, the ANC seems to be falling out with the Labour movement. What are going to be the consequences of this? Mzoxolo Mpolase is a political analyst. Is it a coalition 2019?
Of course, of course.
Of course.
Yes.
A dead cert.
Yes. Well, at least based on projections that we have now, which actually proved to be quite accurate when it came to the municipal elections that we had in 2016. So if the current trend continues in that the ANC still fails to recognize that they're not effectively organized, that despite their general appeal throughout the rest of the country, they've not been able to translate that into some kind of organized force that will be able to counter any advances by the economic freedom fighters, nor the Democratic Alliance, whom have shown that coalitions do work and that the waning of power does result in coalitions in general. Okay, so is it as simple as a Jacob Zuma effect? If the ANC was to replace Jacob Zuma at the 2017 elective conference of the ANC as leader of the party, and at that conference recall him as president, it's happened in Polokwane, it could happen again. If he was recalled as president, would it up the chances of the ANC maintaining a majority in 2019? Of course. So Zuma's the problem? Not necessarily. But there has been, for a long time now, as you know, for the past 4 years, a sense that President Jacob Zuma is the one that is heralding this uncharted territory for the ANC in a sort of post-apartheid context. So it would help to sort of, I guess, send a message that the party is, for once, taking leadership more seriously, or at least taking a renewed view to leadership, one that would certainly discount a person like President Jacob Zuma. But of course, that's only the tip of the iceberg in a sense, because as I say, it is an issue of organization. You know, in the political analysis community, there's a sense that the ANC has got about 1 million volunteers. They cannot coordinate them because they simply cannot even manage that database. So that speaks to a lack of expertise, a lack of organization. And as I say, they've got huge support, but that huge support is not nurtured in between elections, and that has been their greatest challenge. So yes, removing President Jacob Zuma may help, certainly, the PR battle that they face at the moment. But beyond that, they need to focus on the hard stuff that really drives any political party. If the writing is on the wall, as political analysts suggest that it is, including yourself, why does the ANC have such a high risk tolerance? Because if you're going towards an inevitable date on a calendar and all of the data is pointing towards you losing power, which is unprecedented considering the majority that Thabo Mbeki got, I think in 1999, he was almost at 67% or thereabouts. To lose that majority in such a short period of time is surely a political disgrace. Of course, and the assumption in that question is that they operate in the same thinking space that you and I do. But generally what happens in the ANC, I think it's more governance by faith rather than governance by strategy. So many new, people in the ANC policy units, whether in parliament or in the party itself, they knew that the writing was on the wall in terms of the municipal elections in 2016. But there was still the sense that our people shall not let us down. So there is a sense of reality that is missing within the ANC. So you find there's empirical evidence now. We've got the local government elections. Is that just an anomaly in the minds of the ANC strategists or the ANC hopefuls, if you like? Of course, they'll make these concessions. They have this what they call the balance of forces analysis. They will say this: it's because of X, Y, and Z that we lost the elections. Which part of it is based in the same kind of thinking space that you and I have. But as I say, it's governance by faith in the sense that we are this juggernaut of a party and our people will not let us down. And also there's, I would say, the discussion is often hijacked or peppered with a sense of this revolutionary talk, this Marxist-Leninist political ideology, which for all intents and purposes, tends to cloud the vision of the people who should be actually crafting the strategy. So from the spokesperson to the general secretary, they know the numbers, they're seeing the trends, but it seems that the political speak or this ideology dominates more than the realism that is expected to function in any political party.
Jesse Duarte, Baleka Mbete, and the president, Jacob Zuma, faced a political reality on May Day. They went to gatherings, Workers' Day gatherings on May Day. All three were booed. All three were told, we're not interested in hearing you. This is from COSATU. This is from a member of the Tripartite Alliance. This is, to even a blind person, as obvious a signal that the ANC is in serious trouble.
Of course, but then with that being said, they've done this before, and it really has not moved the political ticker at all insofar as President Jacob Zuma is concerned. And I've maintained this this view of Labour for a very long time, is that Labour in this country, COSATU included, is very duplicitous in nature, in that they want to have it both ways, that they can criticize and still at the same time be the same patrons of the power that they seek to criticize or are criticizing. So this has been the case for them until they are able to use the membership or constituency that they have and mix that with political will. Nothing will happen. So I made an example before where Zuma Dlamini, central executive, comes out with a statement saying that we support Cyril Ramaphosa. But if you were actually to sit and interview Zuma Dlamini right now, he would be unable to defend that position. And you'll find that many of his constituents, particularly affiliates, such as the National Union of Mine Workers, would be found wanting to pronounce so confidently on Cyril Ramaphosa. So yes, it is unprecedented. Yes, it does speak to divisions within the ANC, some of which are really unprecedented right now. But Labour, we need to take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt, because they've been playing this duplicitous role, whether disagreeing on e-tolls, disagreeing on labour brokers, whatever else, and later conceding and then being, I guess,
it's a mess.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to summarize it elegantly in a tweet, it's a mess. So this mess plays out over the next 6 to 7 months, with potentially disastrous consequences for the economy as the ANC gets embroiled in a dirty, dirty fight to see who will succeed President Jacob Zuma in December 2017 as leader of the party. Right now, it's a two-person race. It's Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma versus Cyril Ramaphosa, who's hit the ground running finally, with some kind of early indication that he might be keen on the job. Are either of them even likely to get it, considering the structure of the voting process, the election process at an elective conference?
Well, you need to look at who is the power base, or where is the power base insofar as the elective conference is concerned. As it stands right now, KwaZulu-Natal has a fair share of that. And they've been able to be more organized than any other province in that regard. So as it stands right now, the preference that KwaZulu-Natal has will likely become president. And as it stands right now, it is Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma.
How influential then is somebody like Zweli Mkhize, who's Treasurer General of the ANC, who seems to hold quite a lot of sway still in KZN? Because it's an interesting battle of who holds the power in KZN, really. Is it Jacob Zuma, or is it somebody like Zweli Mkhize?
Well, if you look at the events where he was booed, he himself was also a victim of this booing political tactic.
Was Zweli Mkhize also booed?
Yes, at the
Equal Opportunity
Katrada, yes, memorial, yes. So there is a sense, you recall he was the premier of KwaZulu-Natal for some time, and since he has left, a lot has changed. Sihle Zikalala has come on, and he has the backing of the ANC Youth League, which has really crafted a niche for itself in KwaZulu-Natal. Indeed, they may be very weak at the national level, but if you really want to see where the engine of the ANC Youth League has been, is in KwaZulu-Natal, to the point that they've been able to get concessions in some from the ANC proper in KwaZulu-Natal in terms of the 40% threshold. 40% threshold for the ANC Youth League in government positions, which is unprecedented, but they're able to hold the ANC proper in that province hostage under those conditions. So between now and December, it is unlikely that will change. And as far as Cyril Ramaphosa is concerned, he may, to my mind, be a Kgalema Motlanthe of sorts, because you recall Kgalema Motlanthe, he was the reluctant candidate, and he was unable to translate the constituencies that were backing him into some form of proper political base, not only in terms of the political will or willingness to vote for him, but he needs to organize. And that window of organization is closing, as we see with the policy conference next month. And of course, it will be 6 months before we have a new ANC leader.
Assuming, of course, Zuma takes it.
Yeah.
She takes the ANC to the 2019 elections. President Jacob Zuma remains president until 2019 because there's clearly no political will under this scenario to remove him as president of the country. There are attempts by opposition parties perhaps to impeach the president, to have him removed as head of state. That galvanizes ANC support even stronger around the president. And we head to this death spiral for the economy. We're headed into a death spiral for the ANC come 2019. Who then becomes the government? Does the ANC then sidle up to the EFF and say, let bygones be bygones, let's get into this coalition together? Or does the EFF cozy up to the DA? Ideological opposites, perhaps?
Well, I doubt that EFF would make that concession because what they've been doing now has worked. They were able to translate 8–10%, depending on provinces, into some form of real political strength. So it's very likely that they won't go into a coalition with the ANC. Those members of the EFF, for example, who had, I guess, were sticking out for a possibility that they may work with the ANC in some form. So I'm thinking of Munsami, I'm thinking of Mlitama. Those people have since left the EFF. And what remains of that EFF is one that seems to be charting its own political course, one that is vastly different from the ANC. And in terms of what happens after this whole mess, you have to understand that the reluctance that they have around removing President Jacob Zuma is that there is a sense who takes over, in truth. And it was very easy. I feel Thabo Mbeki in 2007, 2008 was low-hanging fruit in that regard, because there was a base that had coalesced around President Jacob Zuma. But at this moment, there is no base coalescing around Dlamini Zuma nor around
Quick
Khosa.
answer. President come 2019, is it President Maimane or President Malema? Or someone else?
Could be Maimane. If the ANC does not take a corrective action in the next 1.5 years, sadly.
Extraordinary views. Mzoxolo Mpolase, thank you very much for coming in. He's a political analyst. Yeah, are we seeing the death throes of a proud liberation movement? What are the consequences of that come 2019? Mzoxolo's view this evening is that we could very well see a President Maimane, no doubt, a Deputy Julius Malema perhaps in that scenario. But look, there's still a lot to play for and a lot of water to run under these political bridges. Till next time on the Moneymakers, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.